Hello students, welcome to MCQ video discussion on Medico apps. I, Dr. Ankita, will be discussing with you a MCQ on rake angle. But before that, I want you to subscribe our YouTube channel by hitting the bell icon so that whenever I discuss such kind of MCQs, the dental concepts with you, you will be notified for all those as they are very important for your examination from the PG point of view, from your examination from the Viva point of view, and also in the theoretical questions. So let's start by understanding and resolving this MCQ on rake angle. So the question here is from the conservative subject and it has been asked in All India PG and also in the local state examination. So the question here states that a dental burr cuts the tooth surface more effectively when the rake angle of the burr is. Is it positive, negative, radial, or none of the above? These are the four options which are given with this question. Now, why I have mentioned that this is a question on MCQ? Because that is the key point of the MCQ which we are going to discuss today. So, for that, you need to know what exactly is rake angle. Now, rake angle, let's discuss about this important but a very tiny but a very important topic of rake angle. Rake angle, where it is used, what is rake angle, what is the significance, all those questions must be going through you when I am discussing about this MCQ. So basically, rake angle is used whenever we are using or whenever we are mentioning about a rotatory cutting instrument. Yes, every cutting instrument has this rake angle, especially when we are discussing about the rotatory cutting instrument. Now, what exactly is rake angle? So for that, to understand this rake angle, you need to understand these 5 or 6 diagrams which I have just shown, which is just being shown to you in this slide. So for that, let's start our discussion by first understanding the first image here. This is the first image which you need to focus on. So what you are seeing here, you are seeing a dental burr. Yes, a dental burr which is used in the rotatory instrument. Now, what is the significance? So, the rotatory instrument you are seeing is a dental burr. It's a straight dental burr which you are used or which you use to cut the tooth surface. Now, when we take the cross section, okay, if this is the dental burr which is just you are seeing in this image, if I cut this into a cross section into 2 parts, what you will be seeing? You will be seeing the cross section of this dental burr. And where is that cross section? So this is the second image. This is the second cross section of the dental burr which you have just seen or you have done. Now, how the rotatory instrument moves? So it goes clockwise. Okay, it goes clockwise. We all know that. Now, the similar image is shown here. This is the cross section of a rotatory burr which is going clockwise. With this, now I am going to zoom this image or magnify this cross section of the dental burr. When we just zoom or magnify this cross section of the dental burr, what we are going to see? We are going to see some very important facts. And what are those facts? So here, as you can see, this is a very typical diagram which you must have seen in your book. What exactly is this? What exactly is this? What are these edges which you are seeing? They are nothing but the burr edges, the blade edges. These are the blades which you are seeing which helps in cutting the tooth surface. Now, if I am zooming this particular edge or this particular blade edge, what we are seeing? So, for that, you need to understand if this is the cross section, okay, if this is the cross section and this is your tooth surface, so definitely one surface is going to touch the tooth surface first and the second, the behind surface is going to touch the tooth surface later on. So the surface which is going to touch the tooth surface first is known as rake face, okay, that is the leading edge of the surface, the blade is known as rake face, and the surface which is trailing behind or which is present behind this, the cutting edge of the blade is known as clearance face. So similarly, you can see in this third diagram that if you again magnify this particular surface, and if we are taking this particular blade surface, the edge of the blade, the surface which is coming and touching the tooth surface first is your rake face, and the surface which is touching later on is your clearance face. I hope I am clear till this point. With this, now I am going to quickly move and show you the fourth diagram significance. Now, what is the significance of this fourth diagram? So, if you draw a center point here in the cross section of this dental burr, a line which is connecting the center of the burr to the edge, to the blade edge, is known as radial line. So if this is the center of that cross section of the burr, if this is the center of that cross section of the burr, the line which is joining the center point till the edge, the blade edge, is known as radial line. This is the radius of your of what? Of the burr. This is the radius of the burr. So I hope you have understood the rake face, the clearance face, and the radial line. Now coming to our main point, that is rake angle. What exactly is rake angle? So now you know that the line which is joining, the perpendicular line which is joining the center, from the center till the edge, from there the rake face is this. Okay, so the angle which is forming from the radial line to the rake face, this angle is known as rake angle. This is your rake angle. The surface which is touching first, and from the midpoint, the radius of the burr, that angle which is formed here is your rake angle. And the definition for rake angle is the angle which is formed between the rake face and the radial line is your rake angle. Now, the second very, very important point here is, on which the MCQ is also framed, is that the rake angle is the most important design characteristic of a burr blade. Now, why I am saying this is hidden behind the fact that the rake angles are of three types. Okay, now what are these three types? So the three types of rake angles are positive rake angle, the negative rake angle, and zero rake angle. So the importance and significance of these three types of rake angle makes the rake angle the most important characteristic design of the burr blade. So for that, we will quickly now understand what exactly is negative rake angle. When are we going to call a rake angle a negative rake angle? So I hope you have understood about, and now the points for your rake face and radial line are very clear. The surface which is touching the tooth surface first of the burr is known as your rake face, and the radial line is from the center point till the burr edge. Okay, the blade edge is your radial line. Now whenever the rake face, if you see this diagram, this is your radial line. Okay, now, and this was your rake face which was going to touch the radial line first. Now whenever this rake face is ahead of the radial line, that surface, this particular surface, whenever the rake face is ahead of your radial line, this is known as, whenever it is ahead of the radial line, that angle is known as negative rake angle. So as you can see in this image, this is the radial line which we are discussing about, and this is the rake angle which is formed. So this rake face, this is the rake face of the instrument. So is it ahead of the radial line? Yes, it is forming ahead of the radial line. It is forming before the radial line. So whenever the rake face is leading or ahead of the radial line, it is known as negative rake angle. Now what is the significance of this negative rake angle? So you need to understand one point, that this particular image from this angle, what sort of, from the, if you are taking this and this is the angle, if this is the radial line, what sort of angle is forming here? Is it an obtuse angle or an acute angle or a 90-degree angle? Definitely this is forming a acute angle. Now if this is the tooth surface, this is the instrument, this is the acute angle which is forming. Will it be able to cut the surface? No, it is just going to touch the surface. It is just going to move the surface. So that means an instrument with a negative rake angle just have the tendency to scrape off that particular tooth surface or the surface. So if an instrument is just scraping off, will it be in a risk of fracturing the particular instrument? Definitely not. It is not cutting, it is just scraping off. So that means there is minimum risk of fracture of that particular instrument, and definitely it is going to increase the tool life or the bird life. Secondly, it is used for hard cutting and brittle materials because it is just scraping off that particular tooth surface or particular surface. So this is the negative rake angle, and this is the advantage that it minimizes the risk of fracture because it is just scraping off the instrument. With this, now I am going to move to quickly understand about the positive rake angle. Now, what exactly is positive rake angle? We know the two terms, rake face and radial line. They are the master key points for our rake angle. So now the rake angle, when it was moving ahead, it was negative rake angle. Now, if it is moving behind, okay, as you can see in this image, this is the second image, this is the radial line, and this is the rake face. So is it ahead of the radial line or is it behind the radial line? Definitely this image is showing that this is behind the radial line. Now if it is behind the radial line or it is trailing the behind the radial line, it is known as positive rake angle. So this is a image for positive rake angle because it is behind the radial line. Now to understand this point, you need to understand that if it is forming something like that, is it a obtuse angle is it forming an obtuse angle or is it forming an acute angle? Definitely it is going to form an obtuse angle, okay, with the tooth surface. Okay, it is going to form a obtuse angle from the tooth surface, the rake face, the radial line. Okay, now what sort of an angle will be formed? So as you can see, this is forming a obtuse angle. Now if I am putting my instrument in an obtuse angle direction, if this is the tooth surface and if this is the instrument and this is an obtuse angle direction, what it is going to do? Will it be just scraping off the instrument or will it be able to cut the tooth surface? Definitely now you can see that the burr or the blade of the burr can now just cut off the tooth surface also. So that means we can say that the positive rake angle increases the cutting efficiency because it forms a obtuse angle between the rake face and the radial line. So this is a very, very important key point and answer of our question, that the positive rake angle increases the cutting efficiency. And how it is? Because it is forming an obtuse angle between the radial line and the rake face. But there are two very important disadvantages which are attached to this positive rake angle. Now what was negative rake angle doing? It was just scraping off. But what is positive rake angle doing? Definitely, as I have just mentioned, it is cutting off. Now is there more risk in just scraping off something or is it more risk of the instrument fracture when we are cutting something? Definitely there is more risk when we are cutting something. There is more risk of fracture of that instrument if we are cutting. Okay, that means more of pressure is being applied, more of efficiency is being applied while cutting. So the risk of fracture of the burr blade is more with positive rake angle, and this is the first disadvantage of the positive rake angle. And the second disadvantage of the positive rake angle is that there is clogging of the chip space. Now what do you understand by that? So if this is your burr, okay, and these are the fluids are nothing but the depressions which are present in between the burr. Okay, now if there is more of cutting, okay, there is more of cutting of the dentine and the tooth surface, there will be more of definitely clogging of the the surface materials will be present more in these chip spaces or in these fluids. So there will be more of clogging of these chip spaces or the fluids. So this is the second major disadvantage of the positive rake angle. So the major advantage of this is that it increases the cutting efficiency, but the two major disadvantages that there can be risk of fracture of burr blade more in positive rake angle, and definitely there will be clogging of the chip space in the positive rake angle. And lastly, we are going to quickly discuss about the zero rake angle. What exactly is zero rake angle? So as you can see in this image, this is the radial line, this is the rake phase. So now, as you can see, the radial line is coinciding with the rake phase. So when the rake phase and radial line are coinciding with each other, that is known as zero rake angle. I hope you have understood about the negative, positive and zero rake angle. With this, before ending and resolving our MCQ, I want to also mention about the examples for positive rake angle and negative rake angle. For positive rake angle, the example is K file, whereas the example for negative rake angle is K file, and for positive it is H file. Okay, do remember these are the important examples which can be asked in the examination by the examiner also. So let's now discuss one more point and let's resolve the MCQ then. The factors which affect the cutting efficiency of the burr. Definitely clearance angle, but here the major factor is the rake angle which we have just discussed, and another factor is the blade angle which we have discussed. The burr angle, the blade angle also plays a major role, and we have discussed that the positive rake angle increases the cutting efficiency of the burr, but if the angle is more, there will be clogging of the chip space more. Let's now discuss our MCQ and get and eliminate the options and get the answer for you. So now, can you answer the question that the dental burr cuts the tooth surface more effectively? The increasing the efficiency, the cutting efficiency is increased when the angle is positive. Yes, the answer for our question is A, positive. So I hope you are now able to understand this. But quickly, I want to also mention three important MCQs which are based on this rake angle. The first one is, when the rake angle is negative, what will be the answer? Where will be the rake phase and where will be the radial line? So if this is the radial line, where will be rake phase? It will be ahead. Okay, when this is what we call negative rake angle, when the rake phase is ahead of the radial line. The second MCQ which is framed on rake angle is that the most significant angle in the burr design is rake angle. Why? Because it helps us to know the cutting efficiency of the instrument, and also decreases the risk which instrument has the minimum risk and which has more risk of fracture of the instrument. And lastly, the cutting efficiency of the burr is improved by rake angle, but if specifically being asked, then we will answer that the positive rake angle has the more cutting efficiency of the burr. So these are the three MCQs which are also asked and framed under the rake angle question. So I hope you have understood this rake angle concept with the MCQ discussion which we have just done. Now, before winding up, I want you to subscribe our BDS Express YouTube channel. And in case you want such kind of MCQ discussions, daily dental concepts, you need to join our exclusive WhatsApp group on www.medicoapps.org/group. Don't forget to join our group so that you will be intimated and you will be informed for all those important discussions which we are going to discuss. And the link of this group is also given in the description of this video. So just keep watching our videos so that you can easily answer all the examiner questions, all the theory questions, and you can easily resolve the MCQs. Thank you for now. Good day. Good luck.